Chords and Coffee, and today we're going to take a look at a tune. It's kind of a deep cut, but it's one of my favorite tunes of all time. And this video is coming out in the first Saturday of September. So whenever it is that you're watching this, just know that it's starting to feel like fall when this is being made. And this tune is kind of a mile marker for me because there's a period in my life where I really wanted to be a jazz guitar player, but the further I kind of got down that road, I started to realize, you know, I kind of like things that have some jazz spices in the cabinet and cook with a little bit of that, but I don't know that I want to be a dyed-in-the-wool, jazz player. Just, I had other interests, and I found this album, Willie Nelson's Stardust, and it has this song on it. And the name of the song is called September Song. And I was taking lessons from a guy named John Reamer. John Reamer, if you're watching this, you've made a profound impact on my life. You're a fantastic guitar player. Love you, bud. He kind of walked me through this tune. And I'm going to show you some of the things he showed me, but also I'm going to show you some of the places that I've taken it. But I want to tell you in advance, this is not a direct representation of what you're going to find on that record. Two reasons. Number one, this one I'm doing in the key of C. Willie's, I believe he does that in A flat. And Willie's is, I love Willie Nelson. I'm a huge fan of Willie Nelson. So don't hear me wrong when I say this, is that like Willie's version is much more slow. Willie's version is almost more like there's a somber tone to it. There's almost a love lost or it feels more like a goodbye. The version that I'm kind of leaning into is the Jeff Lynne version. Jeff Lynne had a record called Armchair Theater. Jeff Lynne, if you don't know, he was the mastermind behind Electric Light Orchestra, along with an incredible producer with the likes of Tom Petty, Roy Orbison. He was in the Traveling Wilburys. Jeff Lynne, monster musician, awesome, and big fan of Jeff Lynne too. And he did a version with George Harrison playing slide guitar on it, so that's pretty cool, right? And that's kind of the version I'm leaning into. However, there's a few things that I like from Willie's version that I'm taking, and a lot of things I like from Jeff's version, and so we're kind of shaking hands between Jeff and Willie and your old buddy Nate. So without further ado, here we go. Get your guitar, get tuned up. We're doing this in the key of C. It's September Song, and get ready for just a mess load of chords heading your direction. The first few notes of this on George Harrison's part on the Jeff Lynne version, he plays it on slide, and I'm just playing it octaves, okay? And I got some notes here to keep me on track here, but it's a C. It's a C to an E to a B. So index finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, pinky on the 5th fret of the G. We did a whole episode not too long ago on octaves. If when I say the word octaves, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, 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 I thought this was chords and coffee, not octaves and, jelly donuts. It's the best I could come up with in short notice. So anyway, but this emphasizes this little melodic intro here. So you got E or C, E, B natural, and then to this chord. So index finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, pinky on the 5th fret of the D, skipping everything else. Same kind of idea. Index finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the D string, pinky's going to be on the 5th fret of the B, skipping everything else. Let your fingers do the dampening. And then same shape, but just move it up to index finger on the 4th fret of the G, pinky on the 7th fret of the high E. And then this first chord. You got this A minor 7, flat 5. So it's just a C minor over an A, and I'm playing the A up here on the high E string. So I've got an open A. Now think of a C minor being right here, almost like an A minor shape. And what you've got is, you've got your middle finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the D, ring's going to be on the 5th fret of the G, your index finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the B. It's like an A minor, right? And then your pinky is going to be on the 5th fret of the high E. And then it goes to A flat major. Good old A flat bar chord. You could fancy that up if you wanted to, but I'm just playing good old fashioned A flat bar chord. Index finger across the 4th fret, holding down everything, build an E underneath it. So you have a ring finger on the 6th fret of the A, pinky's on the 6th fret of the D, and then your middle finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the G. And then I'm just sort of arpeggiating very easy the G, B, high E, and then a C major 7. Now, on the Jeff Lynne version, first of all, it's got more of a swing, like a shuffle kind of thing. Yeah, like that. And so then you've got, he stays on the C major 7 to my ear. There may be a little activity going on in the piano or something. I have to listen to it again. But on the Willie version, for sure, the piano's doing this little. I like that. I like that C major 7 to the 6 to the major 7. Because you hear this, dun, dun, sort of the Happy Trails kind of thing, right? So first of all, C major 7, index finger laying across the A string all the way to the high E string on the 3rd fret. Ring finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the D. Middle finger is going to be on the 4th fret of a G. Pinky is going to be on the 5th fret of the B string. Now, to get to that 6th sound, your index finger is going to drop back to the 2nd fret on the D and the G. And your middle finger is going to hit the 3rd fret of the A. Then your ring finger is just going to come down on that 4th fret of a G for that C major 7. So you have this. And then the next little melody is. Now this is the stretchiest chord we got. So if you can make it past this chord, friends, the rest of this is cream cheese, okay? And if it's not cream cheese, it's something fairly delicious that's easy to eat. Okay, so you've got this octave E. So index finger on the 2nd fret of the D. Pinky is on the 5th fret of the B. Move that whole sheboing up to the, let's see, the 5th and the 8th, and then on the D and the B, and then skip it down to the next set of strings on the 5th and the 8th of the high E. Just like that. So, and then from here, humor me on this. If you'll slide your pinky to the 10th fret while you're already in this octave kind of grip, right? So when you do that, I don't know about your hand, but my hand, my index finger and my middle finger kind of almost instinctively want to cover these strings anyway, right? So when I go, my index finger is going to hit the 5th fret of the G, and then my middle finger is going to hit that 7th fret of the B, which they're kind of hovering on. They're kind of hovering around them anyways. And then I'm going to play an open D string. And you play the melody, those golden days. And then this, now, when I first learned this, I think I learned it wrong actually, because I went to a D minor 7 here, to like a G7, sharp 5, back to here. But the way that Jeff and Willie do it, and by the way, there's a bunch of different versions out there. There's a Frank Sinatra version, there's a Nat King Cole version, there's a Jimmy Durante, there's all these different versions, but I like those two that I just told you especially. The way that they do it, from this chord, they go to an F minor, and then to a C. Now when I played it just a second ago, I also like going from that F minor to either a G7. So by the way, F minor, index finger across the 1st fret all the way across. You're going to build an E minor underneath where you have your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A, pinky's on the 3rd fret of the D, and then a G7 sus4. It's not that big of a stretch. Index finger is going to be here on the 1st fret of the B. Pinky's going to be on the 4th fret of the G, and then ring finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the D, and then middle finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the low E. And then to a C. You could also do like a G6 or a G7. To a C, a G6 would be index finger on the 3rd fret of the low E, and then build a ring finger on the D string, 5th fret, middle is on the 4th fret of the G, and then pinky is on the 5th fret of the B. And then to C major 7. I know that seems like a lot. However, just do that again, and that's the 2nd verse, okay? And when I played it, sometimes instead of the F minor, if you've been watching with our, we did a whole lesson on minor 7 flat 5 and how the minor 7 flat 5 can be a substitution for the minor 4. This song has a tonal center in this key of C, but you have all these accidentals like that A flat is really, to me, a substitution for the minor 4, right? Well, why is that an A? Well, and if you put an A flat with an F in the bass, you essentially have F minor 7, right? I don't want to get too far in the weeds of that, but this song has all these beautiful substitutions in it. And if I could say like the sort of the crux of this particular piece is that tension of the minor 4 resolution to the 1, and it gets played around with a lot. And in fact, it uses some really cool diminished approaches to even further that, which is our next part right here. Now, when you get to the Willie version, which I like this, I love you, Jeff, but I like Willie's approach when he goes and he plays that little C octave there on the 5th and the 8th fret. Oh, when the days settle down. And that's like an F minor 7 right there, okay? And what I'm doing there, I like to play that melody. So I play that F minor 7, index finger, 8th fret from the A string all the way to the high E. Middle finger is going to be on the 9th fret of the B. And then ring finger is going to be on the D string of the 10th fret. And then pinky is going to hit that little melody right there is going to be on the 10th fret of the high E. And then take it off down here just to the note you're already borrowing on the 8th fret. And then 12 on the B. Listen to that. Boy, sounds like you got cut on a can of soup, doesn't it? Ouch. But in context of that, just a quick little... What is that? Well, I'm thinking of this as an F sharp diminished 7. But here's how I'm playing it. Index finger on the F sharp, which is going to be on the 9th fret of the A. And then my ring finger is going to be on the 10th fret of the B. And then pinky is going to be on the 11th fret of the high E. And then that pinky comes off and resolves to the 8th fret on the high E string. And then if you watched our diminished episode, it's the same chord. I'm just sliding it down in the notes of that chord, and they keep rearranging themselves because it's a symmetric chord. If that doesn't make any sense, you got to watch the diminished episode. It'll make a ton of sense when you see that. But just to give you this chord real quick, it's on the 14th fret of the high E with the pinky, and then you're going to have your middle, that's right, not ring, on the B string of the 13th fret, and then on the G, you're going to have your ring at that point on the 14th fret, and then your index is going to be on the D string of the 13th fret. And then if I reference the pinky, I'm going to go from the 14th, okay, to the 11th, to the 8th, to the 5th. The same thing again, or you could do an arpeggio or stumble through it like I just did. But that diminished sequence happens again. Now here's what's amazing is that's Willie's version where he does something like that. Jeff Lynne actually goes to F major. Oh, when the days settle down. Kind of does a boogie woogie thing, F major. Precious few, the same kind of thing. September. Into it. It's beautiful. I love the Jeff Lynne version for two reasons. Number one, I love Jeff Lynne's voice. I think he arranges songs, though, just masterfully. Listen to that song and listen to the arrangement. There's some weird stuff happening in there. Weird. The level of weird, if I said, hey, at this point, let's just all slap something hard and make it sound like a percussion thing, you go, no, that's going to ruin it. Jeff Lynne. Visionary. Really cool ideas. So after all of that, you go back to the main part of the song, which I've already showed you. And then there's a tag. And that tag is essentially, we're going back to these golden days. And then F minor with one of those G7s that I showed you. These golden days, right? I spent. And you could do, there's a variety of different F minors. If the F minor that I gave you isn't enough, here's one more just for good measure. Here's a minor 9. Put your ring finger on the 8th fret of the A, your middle finger on the 4th fret, 6th fret of the D. Index finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the G, and then pinky is going to be on the 8th fret of the B. You can resolve that to D minor 7 flat 5, which is going to be index finger on the 5th fret of the A, ring finger on the 6th fret of the D, middle finger on the 5th fret of the G, and then pinky on the 6th fret of the B. And then you could resolve that to C. And I had this little fancy pants ending here that I'll give you. Right, and all that is it's this kind of interesting version of a C6 where you have your ring finger on the 8th fret of the low E, skipping the A. On the D, you're going to have your middle finger of the 7th fret, open G, and then index finger is going to be on the high E of the B, or the E note of the B, which is on the 5th fret. And then now slide that whole thing back to the 4th fret. And then back to the 8th fret, 6th fret, It's like a B flat 6. And then this A flat major 7 where I'm adding the 6, and then good old C major 7. And then I hit those little harmonics on the 5th fret. That's a lot, but that song means a lot to me. It's a beautiful song. That song is a wonderful blend of nostalgia. And hey, how about this? If that's the first time hearing it, and if all you got out of this lesson was, man, it's a cool song, I'd like to add that to a playlist. Congratulations, that's a cool song that you should add to your playlist, right? However, maybe there's a couple of chords in there, you're like, gosh, I like the way that sounds. That's okay. Why don't you just get a hold of that and just practice that? You know, sometimes what happens is we get so dialed into like, I've got to practice this and then be able to play it perfectly before I can move on with my life. And friends, that's just not true. You know, we're playing guitar and enjoying this whole process just for the sake of making music, for the ability to change the atmosphere, and most importantly, fill the atmosphere full of encouragement. Do you know why? Well, I'm going to tell you. Because we're living life the best we can with a guitar in our hands, and I'm just now getting around to drinking my cup of coffee. I hope you've had a good Saturday morning with us. We appreciate you. Share this video. Hit the subscribe button. Put comments below. Your feedback means the world to me, and your feedback is how we fuel the fire of the next delicious brew of Chords and Coffee coming your way. Friends, we'll see you next Saturday morning for another episode of Chords and Coffee.